Hey guys, Paquette here, and today I want to talk about Blight over some footage of Blight, and my cat is chilling on the bed there, which is why I've moved the green screen. So let's just play this before I play it, just so you can quickly read the map mods. Tier 9 Blighted Arena map, damage, accuracy, dodge, whatever. Tier 9 map. I wanted to talk about some of the things I really like about Blight, some things I think could be changed about Blight, and some of the just things I've thought about having read my chat and reading through Reddit and other things people have been saying about Blight. To preface this, there's a few interesting things. I was not at all excited for this league. I was really worried about it from the press footage I saw. And from some of the answers that I'd been seeing from devs and stuff, I was really like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this league or not. As soon as I started playing the league, I loved it. I genuinely really enjoy this league. There are some issues with it that need fixing, but I really like it. Really like it. It just needs cleaning up. So, while I'm talking, I just want to touch on a couple of things that we're seeing in the gameplay here. So this is me trying to do the setup for the Blight encounter. You can see I have a portal that spawns right next to the bulb. Kind of unfortunate, but it's just far enough away-ish, and I got lucky that nothing too awful spawned there, that I was okay. Having set minimum distances for bulb encounters would be really nice. This is true of both blighted maps and for just blight to encounter in maps. One thing which can be kind of weird is that here, for example, the portal's very close, but it kind of like snakes around. So the enemies have to walk around a bit. If there's any kind of like AoE that the enemies do, it seems like that can like AoE onto the bulb, or if they're ranged mobs, I think they can just attack right away. I'm not entirely sure. Having some kind of set distance there would make the encounter feel a lot more consistent. Inconsistency is probably one of my biggest complaints when it comes to Blight. Mostly this is directed to the blighted encounters in maps. So, for example, you could have on paper an incredibly difficult blighted encounter, where you have like 10 portals or 12 portals, or basically a lot of portals. That should be really challenging. But they all spawn in a perfectly straight line in one direction away from the map, away from the bulb, and then what you can have what should be a very easy encounter. You only have 3 portals, and they all spawn in different directions very close to the bulb. And it's like, what's going on here? I feel like most, probably 60-70% of all blight encounters I encounter in maps are complete face rolls, don't challenge me at all. And then I get like a couple which just randomly gib me really early without me even realizing, because something spawned very close, or to do with boss enemies spawning certain distances away from the encounter. So like the tankiness of some of the bosses also seems fairly inconsistent. There are the golem dudes where you kill them, they split into smaller golems, which splits into smaller golems, which splits into smaller golems. It takes ages to kill those guys, and if they spawn like right next to your bulb, you're kind of screwed. The leaping goat dude as well is one that stands out to me as being kind of challenging, but the others not so much. Other things I've had which has been kind of annoying, I accidentally portaled there, my bad, is cases where I have everything set up, there haven't been enemy resistances, and then something just happens to walk straight past everything somehow, just literally one auto attack and the pump dies. There's like, I think it's like a unique dog or something, but it's like a dog looking enemy, and it just, I had tank minions set up, it wasn't resistant to minions, I had chilling towers, I was in the way, I was stood on the lane, and it literally just walked through everything, walked through me, just autoed and one-shot it, and I was like, don't know why that happened, but okay. Onto the towers themselves, as you can see here, when it gets super hectic, it's actually fairly difficult to do all the building you want to do, and a lot of that is to do with the way that the towers themselves function. So when you first build a tower, I think you need Cassie to be within a certain range. I've had multiple encounters before. I've wanted to build a tower, like near a wall, and it won't let me build. I don't know if that's because Cassia isn't close enough or something with the UI is broken, but I've had multiple times where I want to build, I have the resource to build, and it won't let me build. But when you first build a tower, you can see it here. There's this massive like playing animation before you can then do future upgrades. That needs to be reduced substantially. I feel like you should instantly be able to upgrade straight away, or they need to do some kind of change, because it'd be really annoying when you're desperately trying to build, and it's like, I've got to wait 5 seconds before I can start upgrading this thing. Because of the constant, like, bombardment of waves upon waves, I find that intensity really fun. And this high intensity, like this cluster you're seeing right now, this is some of the most engaging gameplay I've ever had in PoE. I really enjoy this. But most people's machines can't handle this kind of stuff. And not only that, it kind of goes a little bit against what tower defense feels like to me. For me, tower defense, just from the games that I've played in the genre, it's kind of like, I want to build on my towers, I want to set up, you have like 5 waves, 6 waves, then you get like a brief like 10, 15 second breathing period where enemies stop spawning after you kill the last mob, and that gives you like 10 seconds to run around, build any more towers or upgrade any more towers. That I think would be great, because if you saw in this one, when I started the event, I'm running like all the way down here, I run all the way over there, I run as far away as possible to build base towers. But now I'm basically just stuck in the middle, and you can see I've got resource going up and up and up, and I'm upgrading as much as I can while killing enemies. But I've got all of these towers down here that I can't ever realistically get to. I've got all the towers down here and over here, and I haven't got the time to get over to there. Now, if I could choose to build as many towers as I want in the middle, it wouldn't be that much of an issue. But I'm in a situation now where I'm killing mobs. You can see I'm building loads of rank 4 towers everywhere. But I'm just, like, getting way more resource than I can spend. So either give us more opportunities to spend that resource, or maybe lower the amount of resource we get. Maybe we start with more resource to begin with and generate less. But it just seems kind of... It seems wasted, right? So basically, you haven't got enough resource at the start to build, like, all the towers. But now I've got so much resource, but no opportunity to spend it. It's just, like, too much excess mechanic, basically, is what I'm trying to get to. When it comes to the towers themselves, you notice that I'm really only using 3 towers. Chilling towers, the upgraded tier 4, which makes like the frost walls. Fire towers, both tier 4 variants, the flamethrowers and the meteors. Flamethrowers on chokes, then meteors when there isn't like a clear choke right next to it. And then the minion towers of both the varieties, both the tank and the flying, like, zappy minions. I'm very happy with how the chilling, fire, and minion towers operate. They all feel really good to me. The lightning tower feels very underwhelming. My build shocks, so maybe it's just because my build shocks, it feels like a weak tower to me. But its damage, the damage it deals itself outside of the shocks feels very weak. It's also very visually heavy, and I've noticed it causes a lot of lag on my system, at least. I don't know if it causes lag on your guys' systems. And the arc upgraded tower seems less impactful than the fire, and the lightning storm seems less impactful, and again, very visual heavy. You want as little visuals as possible for this because of how, like, intense the encounter is. And you can see here I'm up to like 40,000 resource, and I'm starting to like rubber band around now as I'm trying to run around upgrading towers. So this is what I'm talking about, like way too much excess. Now, at this point in the council, you actually notice there's a couple of bugged enemies. You can see here, these enemies here are rowers, which became invulnerable, and they just stood there. You can't target them, they can't die, they just do nothing. And it breaks the encounter. I've had that like 3 or 4 times. All people have reported that on Reddit. It's a big thing. And you can see here, I've killed everything, but because of these mobs, you can see them stood shadowy, like here and here. And therefore all of this excess. And I actually say in this video, I like to, when it bugs out, I like to spend the rest of my resource so I can actually see the loot. And you can see how many towers there are over here, but realistically, when would have I had the opportunity to get them? But we're still randomly having like 1 or 2 mobs spawning this way. Just the way that they spawn feels very inconsistent. So either have maybe a natural break halfway through to offer more building, have us let us build more at the start, or just change something really on how that is laid out. Now, another thing when it comes to like the layout RNG, this is an issue I've had with the last couple of leagues because there's so much procedural generation going on. It doesn't feel... A lot of the encounters I do don't feel like they were designed by a person. It doesn't feel like someone chose the layout. I mentioned this when it came to synthesis, and how a lot of the synthesis zones felt very inconsistent, and that was when you're actually on the synthesized maps themselves and they're shrinking in from multiple sides. A lot of the encounters didn't feel like they were designed by someone. They felt like I was being put in a randomly generated map and stuff was just randomly happening. Sometimes I would get lucky and I'd get a really good run, and they were so good it just didn't even feel like a challenge. And then other times I felt completely screwed over. Now, the advantages of having that generated stuff is it requires less man hours and you get to generate more stuff. If it turns out that someone from GGG watches this and they say, actually, Taki, I made all of these by hand, how dare you? I'm sorry. But if that isn't the case, I do think that having more of these kind of encounters designed by hand, yes, it would suck having less layouts, but I feel like it would probably feel better having more layouts of consistent quality than hundreds of variations but feeling really bad. It'd be like if you were really into playing, like, you know, Call of Duty or something, and every map was randomly generated. It would be kind of fun having the different varieties, but it would be really sucky if you just had terrible maps half the time because of it. Now, here I'm literally just spending resource, talking rubbish, and trying to pick stuff up, and you can see here there are still these 2 bugged out enemies here. Bugs are gonna happen naturally. It's just one of those things. They'll hopefully fix it in not too long. Now, when it comes to people saying stuff like, oh, well, they need a QA team, obviously they don't test anything, and, you know, if they had a QA team, we wouldn't have any of these issues. You can have a QA team. A QA team can find problems and say, hey, this needs fixing, and it doesn't get fixed in time of a product launching because you have deadlines. There are problems that I know are wrong with my production, for example, when it comes to stuff that I put out, but I haven't got the time or the resources to fix it. So it's like, well, I could not make any videos or not make any podcasts, or I could fix all the issues. I'm going to pick one up with the time I have. GGG is very good with fixing stuff eventually. The problem is it's often the eventually side of things. Now, from the developer Bay class we had, it seemed very obvious that there was a lot of stuff still being fixed. They kept making the point of like, hey, we've still got another week. And there's nothing really wrong with that, but you guys need to either be like, I don't want to play a game where stuff is always being left to the last minute. If that's you, maybe you should just not play PoE for the first 2 weeks. Maybe you should just make a point of waiting 2 weeks. Or maybe just PoE isn't the game for you, because it's been like that for fucking years, and that's never going to change. I'm not excusing